is about. It looks better to me. Let me know if it's better. So yeah, if that's better, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I am, whether or not I'm a human, that's still up for debate. Yeah. So I'm going to, bear with me, I'm also going to get started on Instagram. So we're going to see how many things I can do horribly at once. I think the answer is going to be exactly 2 things I can do very poorly. Maybe I should have taken an extra minute to set this up a little bit better. Still pretty low frame rate. Oh, look at that. Of course. Oh, no, this is just read the instructions out here on the West Coast. Now that baby, look at that. It's got windshield wipers. TIL, that there are windshield wipers on just read the instructions on the drone ships. Look at how, wow, what's the weather? Has anyone heard? Is weather even gonna, is it gonna happen today? This is typical of Vandenberg. I've only been out to one launch at Vandenberg, and I'll tell you what I saw. I saw a faint glow very far off in the distance. But let me go ahead and start my Instagram live stream here. And yeah. Why Iridium? Iridium is the payload. Iridium is who is buying this launch. So that's, oh, is that the upgraded? Cool, hold on. Live stream SpaceX launch. Ask questions. Hold on, guys, sorry. Post this, pin that, pin. I'm gonna do this quick. All right, sorry guys. I'm trying to do 1.5 billion things at once. Okay, so they landed the shuttle a few times with support crew wearing raincoats. They almost always were landing the shuttle. Oh, launched it with, yeah, that's true. That's true. What is my name? My actual name is Tim Dodd. And hello, Instagram. We're trying to do a few things here. We're live streaming on YouTube. We're going to explain what's happening during the SpaceX launch. All this venting is normal. The fog is not normal. I guess it's very normal for California. This is the West Coast launch. So this launch is happening in California, in Vandenberg, California. It's an Air Force base there. It's actually where SpaceX did their first launch. And I think, you know what? This might only be like their 3rd or 4th launch from Vandenberg. Does anybody have those stats out there? It's great to have a host that fanboys as much as I do. Yes, that is me, hardcore. Yeah, so someone is pointing out, thank you, in the chat room over there on YouTube, that low-level fog like this is not really an issue. It's actually upper cumulus clouds. It's lightning. Oh, look at those new grid fins. Aren't those fantastic? Oh, that's so cool. Now, these are made out of titanium. It's in question right now if they're forged or if they are cast titanium. That is currently up for debate. We'll figure it out. But yeah, this is really exciting stuff. We're going to have 2 launches in 48 hours. Launch is canceled. The rocket is on fire. Yes, I'm glad that's not the case. All right. Now, so we are T-minus 9 minutes and 52 seconds. So yeah, so Gator, you watched the launch 2 days ago. So that was out on the East Coast. That's out in Florida, at Historic Launch Complex 39A, which is, they just recently celebrated the 100th launch from there. SpaceX did. Before that, there's something like 75 space shuttles and a whole slew, almost every Saturn V left from there too. And then SpaceX just actually did the 100th launch, just I think 2 launches ago. Yeah, so stage 2 grid fins. No, those are still on the first stage. Those are still stage 1 grid fins. They are launching very often. At this point, they're looking to be launching almost every 2 weeks. Yes, so what it's doing right now is it's venting off oxygen. So they pump in liquid oxygen, and as it warms up, it changes from liquid state into a gas. And so as it gasses out and as it boils off, it will be vented out these vents. So that's very normal. So the gas that's in, or the fuel that's inside there, it comes in as liquid, and as it warms up, it ends up being gassing off and being gas. So about 2 launches a month. This one is, I believe this is a Leo launch. Why are the landing legs not painted? They've never actually been painted. They've never painted those are only in renders. The landing legs have always been white. They will land the first stage. I am very excited for the Falcon Heavy. The camera is excited. they could get to launch in a week on the same pad. Yes, that's their goal is actually to do like 48-hour turnaround on the pad even, I think. Is this a NASA site? No, this is actually Anna on Instagram. This is Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, so it's an Air Force station. What is the thrust velocity of the turbo encabulator? It's about 7. So that's funny. Hi, if those of you, I wonder how many people are having Inception right now, where they're watching YouTube and then looking through Instagram. You could probably have a pretty crazy experience right now if you want. What are they launching? They are launching an Iridium next generation satellite, their second one. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. Are they going to be able to land stage 2? CWP, check out my latest video after this launch to explain why they will not be landing a second stage anytime soon at all. It's going to be a very long time, so it's going to be the first time they launch on such a foggy day. Not necessarily. Vandenberg, almost every launch at Vandenberg is like insanely foggy. It's either the foggiest day where you can't see more than 10 feet, or it's the clearest day in history and it's gorgeous and you're like crying. So yeah, so I don't know about, this will be a low Earth orbit, but polar orbit. So it'll be fairly low altitude, but in a polar orbit. When's the next ULA Florida launch? A long time, unfortunately. Message retracted. I wish it was message redacted. Do I want to go to Mars? Guys, this is my thing. As you get to know me better, you'll hear me say this all the time. I don't want to be I'm not an explorer. I don't even want to be like an astronaut. I want to be a space tourist someday. Like when I'm 60 years old, I lived a good, healthy life. Put me up on like a cruise ship, like basically a boat cruise ship, and that flies through space. Take me to Mars. Let me like eat some pizza, watch a crappy Adam Sandler movie, hang out on Mars, take a quick selfie with my like hover hologram camera or something, and then and then pop back. That's the kind of astronaut I want to be. I do not want to be a legit astronaut at all. Someone asked me if I play KSP. Dude, Gator, I have like 1,000 hours on KSP at least. I'm obsessed. I've done Eve and back, all stock, with an Eve space plane, with no quick saves, and I live streamed the whole thing. It's on my YouTube channel. So that's my I have to prove that I like KSP. So I took on I think the ultimate challenge. You saw it live because of your show from Instagram. That's awesome. So I just want to see an Adam Sandler movie. That's right. I will pay a lot of money to see an Adam Sandler movie in space, I guess. What? No. 5 minutes on the clock, guys, for those of you wondering. For the polar orbit, does the rocket have to cancel out the velocity from the rotation of the Earth? They do take that into account. Since there's almost, 1,000 miles an hour that the Earth is spinning, they kind of dogleg a little bit against that. Just a smidge. And I think it totally depends. Do I know Isaac Arthur? I do not. That's cool, though. When is the launch? What is my job? I am actually, I know it's weird because I don't make any money yet, but I'm treating it as a full-time job to be doing space communication. So I had been doing Instagram. I've been a professional photographer for 9 years. So if you go back, so for those of you on YouTube looking at my Instagram, that's kind of how I got started, and that's how I did what I was doing. And I grew more and more in love with the idea of educating people and getting them as excited as I was. And although Instagram is a great way to get certain people attracted to space, the best way to get people excited about space is to actually make videos for it. So that's why I've been moving over to YouTube here. So I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit here on the Iridium launch because I do want to hear some of this. That might trip some of you guys up a little bit. Winds look good. Actually, I just realized I can lower this volume and just turn up my headphones like a pro. Jeez. Wow, how did I manage to do that? Do I have reusability mod? I sure do. SpaceX guy has a voice of God. I love John this is John Innsbruck, I think, and he is the best. The weather is very bad, but the good thing is normally this fog is super low ceiling, so downrange cameras and stuff will be able to see it clear that. We might get nothing. We might get 6 seconds of footage. Especially considering it looks like the drone ship's in fog too, so we'll see. We'll get to see the new grid fins in action, that'll be cool. And also we'll be able to get tracking camera that entire time with that first stage most likely because it doesn't really leave the ground stations. There's tracking stations all the way for these missions hopefully, or most of the way. That's awesome. Thank you, Artsy Hooligan. They do need thermal images. You're right. Let's see. Did I put a spacesuit for the Kerbals? Yes. Several other engineers who I've met with are impressed by the work my high school team is doing. Search the video. High school students test huge rocket engine. I will check that out, Jack. I think I've actually maybe seen that, believe it or not. I hang out a lot. What's my Instagram? It's the same as everything's Everyday Astronaut. You can find Everyday Astronaut anywhere. My website, official website. If you want hats, Instagram, I'm going to show you guys. If you want hats or shirts or mugs, you can go to everydayastronaut.com. I also do a lot of random other things. So I also have a Twitter. That's the only thing that's not Everyday Astronaut, because Everyday Astronaut will not fit on Twitter. It's just Day Astronaut, which is terrible. And I want to cry every time I think about it. Let's see. Yeah, other than that, you'll find Everyday Astronaut anywhere. Facebook, all that stuff. So, and Twitch. But I don't really do Twitch anymore, guys. Twitch was too slow. And they wanted me on there like 8 hours a day or something in order to make an audience. And I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. Have you watched a SpaceX launch from Kennedy? I sure have. I've shot 2. So I also do launch photography. I've shot for a couple different companies, but most notably spaceflightnow.com is who I've shot for previously. So I've shot 7 rocket launches in the past. My first one ever, over in the background there, guys, you might see that picture. Whoopsies. Right out there, that guy is a SpaceX launch. It was CRS-3, the first SpaceX launch to ever have landing legs. So now you know. Okay, let's see. A search still finds Everyday Astronaut on Twitter. That's great to know, Bill. Thank you. Because, yeah, I hate the fact that my name on Twitter is Day Astronaut. Like, are you kidding me? Sandman. All right, guys, we are T-minus 1 minute, 22 seconds. They are chilling the engines. That's the fog you can see coming out of there. They're going to start chilling the nozzles. Have I popped into EJ's stream? Got a whole podcast thing going on? No, I have not done that. I am kind of trying to tackle too many things at once right now. Don't LEO launches usually land on land? They can. I don't know. They have not landed. I don't even know if the landing pad is ready. The concrete pad out at Vandenberg is ready. Okay, let's listen to this. They are in startup, so everything's good. T-minus less than a minute. What's the most fun and easy way to study and always remember the information? Oh, just keep watching as much stuff as you can. I don't know. Do I think it'll explode? No, I don't. And they would not even attempt to launch it if there was any risk. If they had any known risk of any anomaly, they cannot risk having it explode. It's just way too expensive. This launch vehicle is $60 million. The satellite on top is probably a couple $100 million. Not worth any risk. If they know of anything, they will not launch. Even if like a small pneumatic thing shows a slight error, they'll go, stop, hold. You hear hold, hold, hold. That means they will not launch. Here we go. 10 seconds, guys. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, there we go. Ignition and liftoff. They committed to launch in the fog. We're not going to see anything. But it's doing good. It cleared the tower. Okay, here we go. We're actually going to see it probably come right through these clouds. This is going to be a cool shot, guys. There it is. That is awesome. You can see it's already going over 200 kilometers an hour. It's already 1 kilometer up, which is 0.6 miles. I love that they have this shot from way far away that can see over the clouds. That's hilarious. If they knew of the risk, why did they launch anyway yesterday? They did not launch yesterday. They launched 2 days ago, and I don't know of any risk that they were risking 2 days ago. Yeah. SpaceX team can call Elon on his cell phone to scrub a launch if need. Absolutely. Yep. All right, guys. I'll pull back a little bit here for you guys. So we're over 600 miles an hour already. Look at that. This tracking camera, they don't get as much practice out here at Vandenberg as they do at Kennedy Space Center. So that tracking camera, that guy's like, this is my first time in 6 years running these things. But because East Coast launches happen literally right now, we're looking at every other week on the East Coast. This is exactly almost 6 months since the last launch on the West Coast. So those poor camera guys. I like how now it says liftoff over there. Whoops. Okay, let's see if he got better. He's still struggling a little bit. Right in the struggle bus just a little bit. Keep it in frame, buddy. Keep going. Say hi to Indonesia. Hi, Indonesia. Tracking camera needs some practice. They should run some simulators on this stuff. There we go. He's getting it. Center it a little bit. I can't imagine doing that, though. They're sitting on a lens that's, like, insane. Titanium grid fins work. Of course. I bet they work fantastic, Sandman. What's the curve? Sorry. So they have to... In order to go to space, you go up vertical to get out of the atmosphere. But then to stay and get into orbit, you actually have to pitch over sideways. So that's why they're curving like this. And they start putting all of their velocity. They start going, oh, cool, look at the grid fins. You can see the arcs on them. They have these hypersonic bear trap-like arcs that help break up so they have less drag in the transonic region. There we go. Main engine cut off, looking good. Here we go. Second stage deployed. Looks good. Everyone's cheering. All right, here we go. And second stage ignition. Oh, look how you can see the first stage falling away. Back there in the distance. That is so cool. Oh, there we go. And this bell will turn bright red. It actually radiates its heat out into the vacuum of space. Are they landing? They will be landing on the drone ship this time. Do I like the sound of it going subsonic? It creates a heck of a sonic boom. So yes, I do thoroughly enjoy that. Hello from the UK. Hi, UK. Thanks for saying hi. And yes, we'll be landing on the drone ship. And by we, I mean they will be. I will have nothing to do with this. New time green screen this launch like a newscaster with Big Matt 2. That'd be sweet, American. I'm into that. I could try it. When's the next launch? I think in about 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah, just read the instructions. The other drone ship on the West Coast has had very little practice. Oh, come on, grid fins. I hope you pop out all the way. Slower than normal. He just said they deploy a little more slowly. Astronaut Miranda, hi. And thank you for saying hi. Hello from Luxembourg and Italy. Thanks, guys. Thanks for saying hi. Yeah, we should be able to get a pretty decent constant because a constant stream. We might not have a blackout because they could have a tracking station downrange a little bit down the coast of California because these launches go straight south and they basically go down along the Baja of California. So there's a chance that they might get almost an entire footage all the way. They might just lose it over the horizon right at the last second, but they should get a pretty clean shot. Hi to Norway. Let's see there. Hello. Wow. Hi, YouTube. Thanks for... Okay, Canada, Germany, Netherlands, another Germany, Sweden, Texas, Mexico. That's all. Hi, guys. Thanks for saying hi. That's fantastic. You think you saw a bird? I don't think there's any birds at... they're above 100 miles in altitude. There's probably not too many birds. You will see debris occasionally fall off, though. There's going to be ice chunks that come off the second stage as they start to re-enter the atmosphere here in this first stage on the left screen. Then you're going to actually start seeing pieces of material ablate off as it goes through the atmosphere. There's going to be carbon chunks flying. There's going to be paint chipping off. You'll see a lot of just weird things. So, hey there, New Zealand and the Netherlands. Yeah, they do an awesome job with their launch coverage. Other providers would never even try to put a camera on their first stage because the stage would be, they'd just watch it crash into the ocean. We actually have something to watch for the first stage as they try to land it. Can you order Domino's from the International Space Station? Maybe Domino's should make a special rocket just for delivering pizza. Hello from, Macedonia, Holland. No, Holland, it's the Netherlands. I have been to the Netherlands, and I sure love it. Hello, India. 150th, happy 150th to Canada. Australia, Caribbean. Denmark. I love Denmark, too. Basically, guys, I'm kind of just, anywhere I go, I end up being like, this is great. So, if I say I love something, it's because I've been there and I have like a personal connection to it. I'll only go to Mars as well if there's pizza. I'm with you, Gwim. Here's this entry burn. So you can see they are lighting up 3 of their engines. And now it's just going to be able to coast through. Let's see these grid fins go to work now. They shouldn't catch fire as much. They should have more control authority. They're bigger. They have more surface area. They should have more control during as they go from supersonic down into subsonic. They should be able to control better through there. I think so. Simone over on Instagram is asking if these new grid fins are to reduce or to increase accuracy or minimize refurb costs. I think it's both. They're going to probably do a better job with accuracy, have more control authority, and they won't need refurbishment. They won't need to be repainted. They're just a raw material that's a lot. They don't need to have a heat shield. Okay, the drone ship has signal of it. Here we go, guys. This is the exciting part. We are working on deployable flight data recorders for airliners. Yeah, absolutely. Canada, 150 years. Cool. How big are they now compared to the smaller ones? Sorry, how big is what compared to... Oh, they're only like maybe 10, 20% bigger. They aren't a lot bigger, but that is still substantial. Stage 1 downlink lost on the first stage for now. Okay, and this is a single engine landing burn since it's a low Earth orbit mission or a polar... There we go, drone ship. Landing legs. Oh, baby. And touchdown. Yes! Yes! I still love it! I still love it every time! Oh, yes! You guys kill me! Woo! That was awesome! Go, SpaceX, go! Go, SpaceX, go! Yes! This is awesome, guys. This is what I'm talking about. I still get goosebumps. Every freaking time I get goosebumps on my arms. Oh, that's what I'm talking about, everybody. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, look at how wavy it is. They need that octograbber out there. They're working on this like Roomba robot that will be able to go underneath the Falcon after it lands and pick it up and hold it in a really steady place. So if it's really wavy like that, it doesn't end up tipping over. It did look like it dropped the essential. You might be right, but it also is hard to tell from that. Maybe it's from the waves. Maybe they're just like, screw this. We don't want one leg getting all wibbly wobbly. We're just gonna let it like drop. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what the actual footage looks like. This is almost not getting boring. Yeah, you're right, Bill. They're getting to the point now where like it's so routine. We see this. We're gonna start seeing this every other week. It's gonna be totally routine, totally normal. It's crazy. And here we used to, like 2 years ago, we never saw him land at all. And now when we don't see it land, we're like, what's the point? It's crazy. That's awesome, Eric. Thank you. Seiko. Okay, good. That looked kind of scary to me for a second. Oh, CWP. It lands in the circle almost every time. They're like getting to within feet now. It's crazy. John didn't realize he was on camera. He's like doing stuff, right? And then all of a sudden he smiles. Hey! That is awesome. Yeah, it did look like that. All right, Seiko done. Yep, we're looking good. Let's see. So hype for... Dude, Boris, man, I'm also super stoked for Falcon Heavy. I'm thinking it might actually happen this year, guys. I mean, that would still be almost 6 months, and we've never quite broken that 6-month barrier. But all signs are looking good, so... Do you think they can land on the launch pad like in the Interplanetary Transport System, ITS? Do I think... Here, I'm going to go ahead and do this for Instagram. I feel like this will make more sense. Do I think they can do that? Maybe. We'll have to see. What did they just say? Sorry, I'm also trying to listen. I'm trying to like talk to 2 different audiences and listen. I'm probably failing miserably. I do apologize, everybody. But I don't know. We'll have to see if they can actually land on the launch pad. So that's risky. You know, you have a lot of risk. If you're going to come back down on your launch pad, you better know for sure you can do it every single time. That's freaking crazy. So let's see. Landing time on the drone ship. Landing on the drone ship was amazing. It's only about 4 times as wide as the landing legs. Isn't that crazy? It's the size of a football field. How long does stage 2 take to reach the ISS? So this mission is not going to ISS. A normal ISS mission, it's almost 2 days. But they have to do a whole bunch of maneuvers to increase its orbit. They get in the big deal with the International Space Station is they have to be on the same inclination. So that's like this. Ready, prop time. So when they launch, when you get into an orbit, lots of times the orbits are not like straight on the equator. They're almost never on the equator. They're almost always in some sort of on some inclination. So imagine like a big hula hoop going kind of wonky and crooked. The International Space Station is, I don't quite remember the inclination, something like 42 degrees at an inclination. And the big deal isn't so much about catching its altitude, but it's they need to launch at the exact time so when they take off and head northeast, that they end up in that exact same inclination as the International Space Station. Say they miss it by 10 minutes, they'll be on a different inclination for basically ever, and they'll never be able to catch it. Because it takes a lot of delta V, a lot of change of maneuver in order to turn that inclination later on. So once they line up with the inclination on launch, then they slowly increase its orbit, and they actually, I think, go above it for a quick minute, and then come down, and it's kind of a slow, cautious. They have lots of checks and balances so that they don't have a rogue spacecraft flying up and crashing into the International Space Station with 6 people on board. That's not good. Boom, that's really bad. So, yeah, so this is great. This is just what we wanted. The Essential asks, any idea when Vandenberg Air Force Base will get its own LZ-1 or Landing Zone 1? I thought they had it done. I mean, they've been working on that. You've seen there's been a tent out there. They've been working on pouring the concrete. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I thought for sure that'd be done a long time ago. But yeah, we'll see. So, is that my cat? Yeah, my cat, sorry. This is obviously not planned. If you can hear that, she carries this string in her mouth from room to room and then will just meow like crazy. Oh, John Ellis, thank you. 51.6 degrees for the ISS. That's its angle of inclination. So, have I ever created the ISS in KSP? I have, Astro Nathan. Nathan, just period. So we're still waiting. They're going to be doing a coast phase, and they're going to light up that second stage again in a long time. It looks like we have plenty of time to talk here, folks. Okay. You may have missed the answer. Do you know if the Raptor engine is already in full development, or is it a 3-to-1 scale? Hope you liked your video, Jack. Yeah, Jack. So the Raptor engine is currently in a subscale. Gwyneth Shotwell, who's the president of SpaceX, just recently confirmed that it's subscale in size and it's not subscale in performance. So people were speculating, is this a full-size Raptor engine that they're holding back full thrust on it, and that's the subscale? Or are we talking about doing, or are they talking about a physically smaller engine? And it sounds like it's about 3 times smaller. I think. Please correct me, guys. Are there any plans for another ISS? No. Not as ISS as we know it. There are many plans in the kind of on the drawing board for different space stations. We'll see. But for now, the big thing that's kind of exciting would be private space stations. Like Bigelow has this inflatable HAB module. They're talking about docking 2 of their huge, I think they're called BA-330s, and they're massive. And they will dock together, and then you'll be able to dock other spacecraft and have a private, basically a space hotel. And Bigelow Aerospace is actually owned by a gentleman who he's a multimillionaire who owns hotels chains, I think Budget Hotels. So he's going to go from budget hotels to freaking space hotels, and he's been working on this for 15 years. Where do we get all this info? It's been about 4 years of me being a huge dork. That's where I get all this stuff. Do I know how tall the Falcon 9 first stage? It's 156 feet tall. It's huge. Yeah, it's actually 1 or 2 feet, a few feet taller than the FAA legal height of a building next to an airport that has to have a marker on it, like one of those beacons for airplanes. It's literally physically taller than they would have had to put a beacon. So what they did, when they landed their first stage ever, they took that first stage, they took it out back to California to where they build the rockets in Hawthorne, California. And they wanted to put it out there as a monument so that anyone can come and see it, which you can today. The problem is it's a few feet taller, 2 or 3 feet taller than what the FAA requires of a building to have a light on top for the airplanes. And Elon's like, I don't want a big, ugly, blinking light on my rocket. So instead of putting a light on the rocket, they graded the ground down 5 feet so it'd be underneath the maximum height, which I think is just the most Elon Musk thing anyone can do. And I think that's hilarious. So... and Nolan points out there's also plans for a Cislunar 1000, which would be kind of a space station that would orbit between the moon and Earth in a constant cislunar orbit, which means it can kind of just go out and slingshot back and forth. It is very cool. So, can you please elaborate on the previous plans to use STS external tanks to build hotels? I I sure can. So at one point they realized, this is talking about the space shuttle, they realized, hey, if we have an external fuel tank, this thing's huge and it's totally empty and it almost makes it's only 400 meters per second short of going into orbit. So instead of totally ditching it, I think the plans would have been something like, let's lower the payload inside the payload bay, basically do a couple space shuttle missions where we basically just launch that big tank up. We'll put them all into orbit together, and then we'll attach them at some point and be able to use those attached external fuel tanks as a space station, which would have been the coolest thing ever. Unfortunately, that didn't quite pan out. Have I ever met Neil deGrasse Tyson? I have not. Why not take a ton of SpaceX second stages and make another space station from it? Simplicity. Honestly, it's rendezvousing and docking and building things in space is still crazy hard. It's that whole keep it simple, stupid thing. KISS. It's a very common engineering term. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't go crazy, you know? So, yeah, I think that's like kind of the key, you know? Yeah, who knows? That's the big reason. Slick 40 should be done in September. So for those of you who don't know, I'm reading off two different feeds here, so hopefully you guys aren't too confused if you're watching one and not the other. So Slick 40 is the old launch pad that blew up September 1st of last year. They had a pad anomaly while they were fueling a Falcon 9 rocket for the Amos 6 launch. And that was an Amos satellite. They had it on the thing. They lost everything. It blew up the launch pad. And luckily, they were working on the time on another launch pad. They were refurbishing historic launch pad 39A to be able to use for their Falcon 9. So luckily, they had another one going. And that's like the coolest thing ever. So luckily, they had a quick turnaround. So they've been now, after they kind of got that all online, now they've been working on rebuilding their pad 40. And it should be done soon. Once it's done, they can move operations back onto Slick 40. And then what's going to be awesome is they'll put the Falcon 9 back on Slick 40. Then they'll refurb 39A, their new launch pad, to be able to handle Falcon Heavy. And then it sounds like that's the big ticket thing right now, is for them to be able to get back online with Falcon Heavy, or to get Falcon Heavy online, is getting that launch pad ready to launch Falcon Heavy. Falcon Heavy will probably have private customers. You can put super heavy satellites into Geosync at cheap prices. That's exactly right. And they'll be able to recover it. 3 of the cores, even with these huge, heavy things. Now like a call center hold tunes. Do you ever make a video about space elevators? I have not. I probably should. I have a lot of videos I need to make. I'm fairly new to making videos on YouTube, but I will be. John Krause, he says, yo, that lady was legit insane. That was crazy. The Expanse, what do I think? I don't actually know. Is that bad, guys? Help. Birdie told me Falcon Heavy until December at the earliest. No Falcon Heavy. Yep, that's what I'm looking at. I'm guessing maybe this year. The big thing right now is the pad. It sounds like the hardware is darn close to ready. They will have to do full up static fires of this vehicle. This is a vehicle that's never been assembled. It's all been technically almost an advanced paper rocket, because they've been using these cores forever, but they've never been tied together essentially. So we'll have to see. Let's see. I like flying planes because I like flying planes. It was because it wasn't meant to have boosters. I don't quite get that. But hi! It also has to do with Atlas V intervals. Never meant to have boosters. This is true. How do I think space... No, I don't know if it was never meant to have boosters. Wait, what was the question? Is there a plan for ULA to connect second stages and use spare fuel to fuel one second stage? Yes, Boris Man. I see what you're saying. Sorry, I'm going way back in the comments. Boris Man. So here's the deal. ULA has this advanced cryogenic something second stage or something. Advanced cryogenic evolved stage called ACES. It's their second stage that they will be putting on their upcoming Vulcan rocket. Now this is cool because what will happen is when they put these things in orbit, lots of times, no matter what, they're going to fully fuel that stage, and half the time they end up with, say, 5, 10, 15% remaining fuel. Well, if they end up after a couple years having a bunch of these extra stages floating around, they could eventually rendezvous them, fuel up one full second stage, and have an entirely full second stage in orbit that could be a tug then to be able to... I mean, that could send a huge payload to Mars or to the moon. That's awesome. So that's a really cool idea for ULA. And I think that's an awesome idea. Am I an aerospace engineer? No, I'm a photographer, self-taught space nerd. Yeah, just obsession. I always say like photography for me went from a hobby to an obsession to a profession. And that's actually kind of what's happening here with aerospace is it went from a hobby to now just a full-blown obsession and transitioning into a profession. So favorite sci-fi movie? I'm a big Star Wars guy. That's awesome, Joe Bryant. Thank you. It's confusing for John Ellis because he says ACES is also aircrew common ejection seat used by the Air Force. Well, hopefully those two things don't get confused. Dude, Nathan is wearing my shirt right now. That is awesome. That's great news. Nathan, great shirt choice. Thank you very much. Oliver J. Screen is the guy that asks really bad questions. Dude, Oliver, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer what may be bad questions. There are bad questions if you ask something that doesn't make sense, like how tall is a 0? I don't know. That might be a bad question. Do I cringe when I watch Armageddon? Yes! I watched Armageddon recently, and it was the most surreal thing to watch. It was entertaining beyond entertainment because I'm just sitting there like eyes glued at how unbelievably unrealistic things were. But it's pretty funny. I don't know. But it's the worst. But it's still pretty funny. Do I believe there's another planet with Earth-like humans where the humans can live? Oh yeah, there's so many, there's billions and trillions and gajillions of planets. There's probably one that literally is almost exactly Earth out there. Out of all the virtually infinite possibilities in our massive universe, of course there's going to be another planet. Whether or not there's other people hanging out there, who knows? Who's going to the Falcon Heavy moon trip? We don't know. Or are you talking about the launch? Because I'll hopefully go to that launch. But we don't know who actually are the two customers that have paid for a Falcon Heavy launch around the moon. Is Elon Musk a lizard? Most likely. What's my favorite Kerbinaut? Jeb, duh. When SpaceX made a rocket fell over, do you think someone said, did you have a nice trip? Okay, that is a pretty bad question, Oliver. I appreciate it. Yes, I think someone did say that somewhere. Guys, wow, I'm having a hard time keeping up with all these comments, guys. What was the first successfully landing on Just Read the Instructions? The first successful landing was just back in January. It was Iridium 1. Advanced Iridium, the Iridium Next 1 satellite. Yeah, because Just Read the Instructions used to be East Coast, then they moved it West Coast. So Star Wars is science past. That's true. That's true. I've not watched Sudden Impact as an adult. I probably should. Space junk from blowing them up. It would be really cool if Elon went around the moon, but I want him to wait until he's almost dead because we got to have that guy healthy and safe down here. He is just doing everything. You're good, Oliver. Jebediah Kerman, man. Yeah. How tall is 0? Dang it, Jules. I don't know. 0. It would be so cool if Elon... Well, I already read that. Bad question. Do I prefer milk before the cereal? Guys, this might be an unpopular opinion. I don't even like breakfast. Unless it's I'll eat a sandwich. I think I'm European. Because every time I go to Germany or northeastern, Scandinavia areas, they just have bread and cheese and meat, and I love it. And there's nothing better than that. So I will do that every day for breakfast. Elon's planned retirement is to Mars. You're right. He always says he wants to die on Mars, just not on impact. How tall is tall? 7. See you at New Space. Yeah, you will. I will be there, and I'm really excited. It'll be my first panel I'm taking part of. So, hey, if you guys are in the San Francisco area, New Space, there's a New Space conference coming up, I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm speaking on Tuesday with a panel of other quote-unquote celebrities. So if you are in that area, please come say hi. Get your tickets now. I don't know anything about it really, but I'm excited. Also, I get to hang out in San Fran, which is never a bad thing. Will NASA do a program like Constellations program? Yes. NASA is currently working on basically the follow-up to Constellations, which is Constellation, which is the SLS rocket with the Orion spacecraft on top. And the Orion spacecraft was made for the Constellation program, but they ended up deciding not to use the Ares rocket, which is basically a solid rocket booster from a space shuttle, just like this. They then stuck a crew capsule on top, and that program alone, with the one test flight that had a dummy payload on it, cost $1 billion. That got canceled because so far SpaceX has only spent about $1 billion on their entire program thus far in research and development. So how long have I been doing Instagram for? I got this account just over 3 years ago, Everyday Astronaut. So, yeah. Orion, that's you. What's your opinion on faster than light travel to reach systems like Andromeda? Faster than light will not happen based on any of our current model of physics. I'm not in astrophysics. This is stuff I don't know anything about, but I do know there's nothing except for potentially if we learn about and then learn how to exploit wormholes. Sure. You can't be there. You live in Hungary. Is it possible to see some of the SpaceX satellites with the naked eye? Yes, there is, Alexander. And actually, Iridium, this satellite, they're actually known, their first generation satellites had huge solar panels, and they'd create what are called iridium flares. And they look just like a moving star that takes like 5 minutes to cross the sky. They're really cool. You can still see those. This next generation spacecraft, though, I don't think is as visible. So yeah, that kind of stinks. But you can sometimes, if you're like in England, and it happens, and if there's a launch that happens like, I don't know, like an hour before sunset or something from Florida, and you're in England, you'll often see the International Space Station followed by the Dragon capsule right after it, which is really cool. Does NASA have a future, and will they ever catch up with private companies? No, see, here's the deal. I want to make sure this is very clear to everybody, ever. So, NASA and private companies are not at competition. They sort of are in some aspects, but NASA's job will ever increasingly, in my opinion, become more and more of doing things that are not profitable, doing things that the private sector is not going to pay for. Right now, there's a ton of private companies that want stuff sent into space, including NASA wants to put satellites into space. But NASA does not need to build rockets. NASA is kind of getting out of the business of building rockets. They are currently building the largest rocket that will ever fly, the SLS, or ever fly when it flies, the SLS. But that being said, though, yeah, they're not at competition. And I think NASA's going to do things like working on advanced propulsion, working on advanced fuels, working on things that don't make money, like science endeavors. Like, who's going to pay a private company to, hey, we want to build, there's no profit in sending a satellite out to Jupiter, so there's always going to be science that needs to be done that's just for humanity, and that's what NASA's purpose will end up becoming. So NASA and like SpaceX, ULA, Blue Origin's, Orbital ATK, they are not in competition with NASA. NASA is almost more like the FAA plus a lot of science and the brightest minds in the world doing that science, and they're probably going to become less and less of a launch provider, and that's the difference. So, let's see here. What I think that the X-37 is doing, maybe mapping junk and disposing. I'm not sure what the X-37 is doing. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going over and poking some satellites in the face. Sky Guide notifies you when a flare-up happens. There we go. Sky Guide is probably an app. Have I ever played a Legend of Zelda game? Not really, to be honest. Who's my favorite astronaut? I love Hadfield. Hadfield's an awesome guy. I also love Don Pettit. He's great. I love John Young. I don't know. I like a lot of astronauts. Why did the space tether experiment not work? Because we have to figure out the right material to make it so we can have something that is in that kind of constant tension, yet so light that it can be a space elevator. It has to go out to geostationary orbit, too, which is 22,000 miles away or something like that. It probably won't really happen. Who is my role model? I don't know. A lot of people. You're my role model. My friends, my parents. Why doesn't the first stage fall over when a wave hits the drone ship? This is a great question, 100 Scope. Let me explain this. Here. Props. Okay, so here we have the first stage of a Saturn V, right? And if this thing was empty and all the fuel was drained out of it, so at takeoff, most of this rocket, like 90%, 95% of the weight of the rocket is in the fuel. So by the time it lands, it ends up being so empty that all of the weight is down at the bottom, right? And that means the center of gravity is so low that where the landing legs are at, it ends up not wanting to tip over because the weight is so far low. Just imagine it actually has a lot of surface area by how far and how wide extended out those legs are. And so, it's really interesting that it doesn't tip over because that center of gravity is so low. So what do I think of the of the Black Knight satellite. I'm not sure what the Black Knight satellite is, Ethan. Give me, yeah. The profitability in space is SpaceX. I would say the profitability in space is private companies. Not necessarily SpaceX alone. ULA makes a profit. Blue Origin will probably start turning a profit. They're going to be pretty great. Yeah, that is a Lego. I've only built the first stage so far, guys. I got another stage and a lot of stages to go. ISS detector app is best for Iridium flares. That's great. I did not know that, the essential. Do I like Stranger Things? If not, Oliver will blow up Mars. Guess what? I love Stranger Things. Did they come out with season 2 yet? I know it's coming soon. I can't wait. I, of course, consider going out to Wallops for an Antares launch, and I will probably. I've got friends at Orbital ATK that I would love to go out in there and shoot one of those launches, and I will someday. Been a crazy year so far, though. Let's see. It's so low because of the engines, yes. What is this? Mike, we are watching the SpaceX Iridium launch. So they just launched a rocket and landed the first stage about 20 minutes ago. They landed that stage 24 minutes ago or so. And we're watching it coast until they do their second burn, which will then circularize, finish circularizing, and put it on the correct inclination. So for its polar orbit, I think is what we're doing. I probably should have listened better. I didn't listen very well in school, so that reflects here in life. Oh, man. Best space movie I've seen. Guys, I love The Martian. Come on. The Martian is an awesome space movie. They, made it funny and entertaining, but still accurate enough, and, the character's great. You really hope Dragon 2 will fly soon. I do, too. For those of you that don't know, the Dragon capsule is SpaceX is currently uncrewed, so no humans have ridden on a Dragon capsule. No humans have ridden with a SpaceX rocket at all yet. And the Dragon capsule is what sits on the very tippity top of the rocket when they do launches to the International Space Station. The cool thing is, at the very beginning, they realized, let's get practice with an uncrewed spacecraft like this, and then eventually we'll make a version 2 that has crew on it, and that will be flying hopefully this year or very early next year for the first time, which is great because then soon after that we'll be able to put crew on that baby and get them up to the space station for the first time launching from the United States since 2011. I just kind of realized that that's 6 years ago. Holy crap. That's crazy. So finally we'll be sending U.S. and, all sorts of astronauts from all around the world from the United States for the first time from U.S. soil. That's crazy. But I built a Falcon 9 and KSP way too many times to count. Way too many times to count. That's all I build. What is my opinion on the other rocket providers like Ariane Space, Atlas, New Glenn rockets? Eric, I cannot wait for Blue Origins. Blue Origins, I think, is very slow and methodical and very secretive, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, by the way, we did this impossible thing that no one knew has happened. I bet you they're really far along in their methane engine. But other than that, I would say I am super stoked about this new generation of rocket launch vehicles. And Ariane Space so far, they do have a plan to use some recoverability, but they're still kind of old school. And I'm excited about this new stuff. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just I love SpaceX and I love Blue Origins right now because they're looking at reusability and they're doing such a good job. They're making things cheaper. Someone says 10 minutes until second burn. It looks like more than 10 on this graph. I feel like we're only about halfway through coasting. But do I hate Blue Origin? Absolutely not. What's my favorite launch vehicle currently? The one currently flying is the Falcon 9 because you get a 2-for-1. You get to watch it land and take off, so it's a twofer. You're glad that Dragon 2 will take business away from Russia. I'm not one of those them or us. I want everyone to collaborate in space, so I hope that our relationship with Russia in space can continue to be good. That's still one of those things that really makes me excited. Was way back in the day. We really did an awesome job with the Apollo-Soyuz 1975 mission. In the middle of the Cold War, we were able to dock and rendezvous with a Soyuz spacecraft and shake hands with our enemies in space. How cool is that? Yeah, I think so. I'm really excited to get us launching from the U.S. again. Don't get me wrong at all. But I hope that our space relationship with the entire international community, including China, I want that to improve. This is all of humanity going out into space. This is not about the U.S. or Russia or China or Japan or whoever going out into space and exploring. This is humanity now. This is us together, guys. And that gets me really, really excited. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with this. What do I think about SLS? I had to be a little disappointed because of cost overruns and delays. I just don't know if NASA should be building rockets. Oh, here we go. Stage 2 is not starting up yet. Let me get a little volume here. Okay, they just put that back up. So trying to compare it to the Falcon 9, it has not left the atmosphere. No, it has very much left the atmosphere. It's 488 kilometers in altitude. The altitude basically thins out beyond being able to be usable at all at 100 kilometers. So the second stage is very much out of the atmosphere. Is it too late to see other private space companies start up? Not at all, Rudy. There's a million small sat launchers. There's literally probably 10 or 20 new small sat launchers that are starting up. And what happens is if they do a good job with the small sat community, like say Vector Space Systems or Maston or something like that, oftentimes like what happened to SpaceX, they were just going to be a small sat launcher. They get to the point where they're like, wait, we can just scale this up, and they build a bigger rocket, and next thing you know, they're taking over the whole industry. I think that's very much going to be the case for other small sat launchers. Let's see. I like flying planes. Okay. Do I use stuff in space at all? Do you use stuff in space at all? I don't go to space, just to make that clear. I'm a genuine fake astronaut. I'm not an astronaut. I have an old Russian high-altitude flight suit that I've gallivanted around the world with a few times, but I personally have not been to space. I don't want to go anytime too soon. But why does the camera always stop working when the first stage lands? No, but so here's the deal. There's two things, and trust me on this, I'm really, really good friends with like SpaceX's main video guy. We have many conversations about this, and he loves like being like, yeah, Reddit has all the solutions. The big problems, here we go. I'm going to outline this because a lot of people don't understand what's going on as the baby lands. So here's the deal. On, say, when it's a Florida launch, with the camera that is on the Falcon 9 rocket, the telemetry, the data coming off that rocket is coming straight to Florida and being picked up by a receiver in Florida. And what happens is once it goes over the horizon, that signal cannot be broadcast due to the curve of the Earth. Let's use a prop again. Prop City. Everybody loves the Prop City. Okay, so Florida. And all of a sudden it launches out there, and as soon as it goes over the horizon, we cannot get that signal from... No, that goes back up into space. Okay, I don't remember. The big one, though, is the satellite dish on the autonomous spaceport drone ship. The stuff on the autonomous spaceport drone ship, there's cameras on that ship, and that goes up into space. And the problem is, as the Falcon 9 lights up its engine, it blasts out a bunch of plasma, crazy high speeds, and will start shaking that. I mean, watch even on a launch, there's towers that are 2 miles away that are shaking, because these things are so percussive. And so that's exactly what's happening during the landing burn, is that one engine is still shaking so much that it just makes that, it creates interference, it shakes that satellite around, and they can't get a steady stream off of the drone ship. People are like, why don't you put the, a long cord out to a buoy and have, there's so many things, and it all comes down to, it would cost like $2 million for 3 seconds of video, and it's just not worth it. Where's my spacesuit? On the ground. Was it a successful launch? Yes. Yes, it was. Yep. Stuff in Space is a satellite junk tracker that is a spiritual successor to JTrack 3D, a satellite tracker from the 2000s. Very cool. I've never looked at that, but that stuff looks terrifying when you see maps of where everything is in space. One of the things you have to remember is, like, imagine those satellites were here on Earth. They're typically smaller than, like, a bedroom, and it looks like there's a billion things out there, and there's the 10,000 satellites. Well, imagine if those were all spread throughout the Earth, 10,000 bedrooms on Earth. That's nothing. And they're at varying altitudes. Space junk is a concern, but it's not quite as big of a concern as I think some people think. The Black Knight satellite is a satellite that is in polar orbit. NASA has claimed to have photographed it. It's claimed to be up there before Sputnik 1. You can do some research on it. I would love to see the actual NASA claims, because there's a lot of people that say, like, yeah, NASA claims they've photographed it and stuff. When you end up reading, you realize that that's just the source is not correct. You got to find the source material. So, am I applying to be an astronaut? Nope. I am not. I don't want to be an astronaut. I will be a space tourist eventually, but nope. The launch is, yeah, this is true. Our Cranston 3 is reminding me the launch still could fail. They still have to do another second stage burn. Otherwise, at this point, the mission would be a failure. The first stage succeeded beautifully, we think. So, it is it is terrifying, especially when you look at the Iridium 33 Cosmo 2251 collision debris. But a lot of that stuff will end up deorbiting. Even things in low Earth orbit deorbit within 2 to 3 months. Iridium flares, Iridium satellites are pretty low. They would deorbit within years. So, yeah. Is it easier to launch to Mars from the moon? Delta V wise, yes. Much, much, much easier to go from the moon to Mars. But it's not more efficient to stop at the moon and then like leave. That's just adding more complication. We just aren't quite there yet. The SpaceX video guy, does he have Instagram? I don't think he's on Instagram. You occasionally see him on Reddit as Ben Credible. Why not? They want to know why I'm not an astronaut or applying to be an astronaut. I don't want to take that risk right now. It's still like a super high risk thing. I would love that experience, but I want to wait until it's just like normal flying. I used to be a huge risk taker. I'm still a guy that owns way too many motorcycles. I've owned a dozen motorcycles that have top speeds of 186 miles an hour and raced them and stuff like that. But I don't want that risk in my life anymore. I'm trying to like, be an adult or something. I don't know. Iridium collision happened almost a decade ago, and has it started to deorbit? I would assume so. We don't hear about it taking out too many things. Why does it look like everything is leaking prior to launch? That is, they load the rocket up with liquid fuel, and as it warms up, it boils off into gas. So it's a state change. Oxygen has to be crazy cold in order to be in the liquid state. And then as it warms up, it turns back into oxygen as we know it, as a breathing thing, and it vents out as it warms up. So can they put wings on second stage and land it like a shuttle? JK, check out my newest video here on YouTube after this launch. Check it out. I answer that exact same thing. Do I think that a spaceship that can land again at Kennedy Space Center like the Space Shuttle are lucrative in the time of landing boosters or maybe second stages? Again, I'll point you to my newest YouTube video. We talk about that pretty much. Why not risk? I don't know. I got a lot of things on life I want to do here. There's cool stuff on Earth still. People to meet, things to do. Maybe when I'm like 70, or not even 70, maybe when I'm like 60 and I did everything I wanted to do in life, then I'll go to space. Or until it's like so safe that it's just crazy, hilariously safe. And cheap. That's another thing. I don't have $75 million to buy a seat on a Soyuz right now. Am I more for setting up a base on the moon or going straight to Mars? Whichever one is maintainable and doesn't just get us stuck in doing one thing over and over and over. I'm a big fan of, let's create an economy. So if it's an economy on the moon that gets us to Mars eventually, great. If it's making a civilization on Mars that keeps us on Mars, great. Whichever one happens is great. Okay. Sorry. No space, but Well, thank you, Mike. Genes, I think that's all genetic. Thank you, though. Musk's time is never realistic. I think the joke about Musk time, Elon Musk is obsessed with Mars, and a Martian year is like 1.9 Earth years, and his timelines always seem to be, he'll say like, yeah, it'll be 10 days from now, and it'll end up being like 19 days, so it's like Martian time. That's the joke, so yes. Still the option to use old astronauts to go to Mars. Option to use old astronauts. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that the first people to set on Mars, there might be a 55-year-old person. There's no reason for that. They are working, obviously, on a new astronaut corps, but who knows? The price will probably decrease 20... Yeah, it might be. What was my favorite space shuttle? Definitely, I actually like Discovery because I have a little piece of it here in my wedding ring. Little piece of titanium from Discovery. It's a whole band. Yay. What is happening to the Chinese space station? Ethan, they lost control of their first space station a while ago. But they have a new one up, and I think it's doing well. I haven't heard anything crazy. I've known a pilot who still flies fighter jets in the 80s as a civilian. That's crazy, John. That's very cool. Do I have VR? If so, do they have cool VR movie about Apollo 13? I don't know. I have some. I mean, I just have like a cardboard thing or whatever for my phone, but I don't use VR stuff. Hey, Instagram. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to restart this feed in a second here. Hold on. I'm gonna probably just take a little break here, guys. Give me 1 second. They're about to light up second stage again. Stick with me for 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to switch things over here. Give me 10 seconds, get your good questions ready for me. And shout out from Southern California, what's up? Let me do this real quick, guys. I'll be right back. Let's see here. I'm not sure what you guys are seeing right now. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start up another live stream on Instagram. SpaceX launch part 2 is what I'm going to name this. Live stream part 2. Pin that, baby. Okay, we're back. Live stream part 2 for SpaceX. They are still in their coast phase. It looks like it'll probably be about another 5 minutes. Okay, you did hear the launch from a beach in Oxnard. I have no idea where Oxnard, but that's crazy. I love if you wouldn't even know. That'd be awesome. Just be like, what the heck was that sound? Do you think, who do I think will be the first to set people on Mars? So it'll be probably a private and government collaboration. It'll probably be NASA astronauts landing people on a private, some kind of collaborative thing. So it might be like NASA develops the HAB module or the systems on board of a Bigelow module, of a launch with a SpaceX this, and who knows? There's probably going to be a whole smorgasbord. Let's see. Would you be with Elon Musk on Mars or the moon? Would I be with Elon Musk on Mars or the moon? Well, I'd pretty much go wherever Elon asked me to go ever. Even if it's just around the block in a Tesla with him to get some coffee. Absolutely. Elon should pay me for doing this. Nah, this is all for love. You don't have ad blocker. Okay, 90 miles away, Jose. You can hear it 90 miles. That's nuts. About old astronauts. I knew that it was because of the statistics due to radiation sickness. Did I? Well, I mean, John Glenn flew at like 72 or something. So, have I tried bringing my suit on a visit comet? I'm not sure what a visit comet is. Have I tried bringing your suit on a visit comet or visiting? I don't quite get it, but we'll say yes because that makes the most sense. Let's see. I'm just trying to figure out what are actual questions. Sorry, guys. We are about T-minus 5 minutes maybe from the stage 2 reignition for SpaceX. Here, I'll show you the screen. Oh, here we go. They have acquisition of signal, probably off the coast of like Madagascar or something, which is crazy. Let's see. Vomit Comet. Oh, I would wear my spacesuit on the Vomit Comet. Absolutely. Yep. Saber engine. What about? Yeah, Saber engines are awesome. Someone in the YouTube chat over here is asking about the Saber engine. And that is a air-breathing engine in the atmosphere, and then it can switch over to a rocket engine, so it can then use liquid oxygen as its oxidizer when it gets out of the atmosphere. This is great because that whole time you can speed up and use a really efficient jet engine instead of a rocket engine. And here we go, guys. We are getting ready for that stage 2 burn. Okay, so what is happening right now? We're about to be doing this second stage reignition. That will put it into its final orbit. So SpaceX just launched 50 minutes ago, Falcon 9 out of Vandenberg Air Force Base on the West Coast. And they were in a coasting period, so they got the second stage into a parking orbit. Now they're going to be coasting and reigniting to orient it into its final orbit. So that's what's happening right now. How much of the space suit do I have that cost? I got my spacesuit for $330. Lots of times those helmets go for like $1,000. I bought it as a joke, and now it's the bane of my existence. There we go. That's the answer. They get signal from South African stations. There we go. Thank you, Johan. SpaceX uses direct transmission to barge after plume. What do I think of Skylon? Vaporware or the way of the future? I don't know if Skylon is exactly the future per se, but a hybrid engine like that is genius. And I think that if Skylon and the company behind it, I don't remember who it is, research group, if they can't figure it out, I really hope someone else works on it, because it's a great idea. And I definitely think it makes sense with our atmosphere, use our atmosphere to our advantage, to lift, to provide lift in a lifting body, and also to provide oxygen during that initial ascent. Get a whole bunch of speed going and then get out of the atmosphere. Do I have a degree? I have a 2-year degree in nothing. All self-taught nerd, I guess. You're in South Africa. That's awesome, Orion. No more Iridium flares. That's exactly right. Isn't that crazy? All right. What is my opinion of the Hyperloop? Fantastic. I'm kind of mad because when I was in 7th grade, I have this old drawing pad that shows that was my idea for Hyperloop, which was just take a maglev train and stick it in a subway and suck all the air out. Elon Musk must have saw that I drew that sitting in China Walk restaurant when I was in 7th grade. He obviously stole that from me, and now he's going to build it, leaving me in the dust. So I love it, but I just am very, very mad at Elon for it. Obviously, that's half sarcastic, but I did actually draw that in 7th grade. All right, here we go. Wait, did stage 2 already do its burn? If so, that's the world's quickest burn. That was it. They burned, and that was it. Now we are going to coast until they can deploy that. So someone asked, what do I mean about no more Iridium flares? So the old generation of Iridium satellites had such big, they had such massive solar arrays that you could actually see them like you could see the International Space Station at night. It was crazy, and these new generation of satellites don't have as big, so you won't be able to see them through the sky. So you used to be able to see them in the right conditions. You'd see them streak across. You can still see them, but as they eventually leave, they'll probably start deorbiting some of those. So yeah. Do I know Copenhagen suborbitals? Not only do I know them, I know them. I've went and visited them in Copenhagen. Those guys are awesome. What they're doing is crazy. For those of you that don't know what Copenhagen suborbitals, it's basically an open source, crowdsourced bunch of guys in a hangar in Copenhagen building suborbital rockets, and they're eventually going to put people on them, which is crazy. All right. Let's see. Don't laugh or propose making a CubeSat communication network. Elon copied your idea. That's true, John. I understand. Hold on. Sorry. I'm like hearing yelling. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. All right. Yeah. So I'm trying to read questions, sorry, from both Instagram here and YouTube. What is the point of stratolaunch? Sounds pointless to lift a rocket with a plane only 10,000 feet ago with zero velocity, just to launch it from there. All right, here's the advantage, the bionator of the stratolaunch system. So he's asking, so there's a new launch vehicle, and Virgin Galactic does something similar where they take a jet and they mount basically a rocket to the bottom of it, they let go of it, and then that rocket launches. Now, some of us would go, oh, that's great, because you can get some altitude for free, and you also get a little bit of horizontal velocity. But the big thing is with a stratolaunch system, the reason it's not as great as it sounds is because it only goes up to 35,000 feet out of the, 300,000 feet that we actually need to get into low Earth orbit. So it's only a tenth of the way there, and it's only putting in at most 400 or 500 miles per hour out of the 17,500 miles an hour. So the big thing with putting something into orbit is making sure it's going horizontally fast and not just vertical. So yes, an airplane, but the advantage to it, the advantage to how exactly you can, why a stratolaunch system does work is you can launch almost in any condition because they can get out of the weather. They also obviously save a little bit on delta V because they do get a little bit higher where they can use a more optimized engine that's already in a pretty thin atmosphere. An engine that wouldn't work very well on sea level, they can start, yeah. Oh, I love, here we go. We got Roy dropping some conspiratorial knowledge here. Classic, satellites don't exist. Good luck. Good luck with your life believing that. Skyview app is great for tracking Iridium flares. That's awesome. My real name is Tim. I say that in the beginning of every video. Check out my YouTube videos after this, guys, if you want explanations on all this stuff. I'm trying to populate a lot of videos on this. So an SSTO can have just about 9 hybrid engines. Okay. Spider launch can also fly to clear airspace, so minimum range issues. Exactly. I'm missing some stuff there. Okay, is Virgin Galactic ever actually going to do something? If Branson wasn't pumping cash into it, it would have bankrupt by now. Absolutely. They have so many tickets, the longer they wait, they're probably going to start losing some of those reservations. I have seen White Knight in person, and I forget what the other one's name is, just recently. And, oh, here we go. We're going to do stage deploy. I'll show you guys this. So, yeah, Virgin Galactic's finally getting close. They have had to redo their entire thing, though, for extra safety, to scale it up so a lot of people can ride in it. Yeah, you're right. It's been a while, though. What is a vacuum Merlin engine? That is what we were looking at in that last shot there, where it has a much bigger nozzle. The reason is, in space, there's no air. So the hot gas wants to expand out infinitely. So if you put a bigger nozzle like this, a normal nozzle on a Merlin engine's teeny tiny. It's like a tenth the size of this almost. And that, because on the ground, all the atmosphere, 14.7 or whatever it is, PSI is pushing against that. So it actually is like pushing it in, it's restricting it. Out in space, they want to put that in as long of a tube as possible, basically, to direct all that air or all the gases in a perfect angle. That way, you get the most. Hopefully, they deploy this thing soon. I hope they're not having a problem. Yeah, so that it becomes most efficient. Come on, baby. Let's do it. What is a Merlin engine? So SpaceX only builds one engine. They build the Merlin. They build either a vacuum version or a sea level version. They use 9 on the first stage and then 1 big vacuum engine on the second stage. There we go. So why do they choose to use it? Because if they build them all in-house, they build them by the hundreds. They've built over 200 or 300 some engines. They decided to scale it up in production. That way you bring the cost down. All right, baby, what's going on? Oh, that's right. This is a constellation, so they're deploying multiple satellites. Oh, I was getting nervous. Why is Boeing working on a spacecraft that can carry people to the International Space Station if SpaceX is already working? For redundancy, NASA awarded 2 contracts to 2 different providers. So Boeing built their own spacecraft, SpaceX built their own spacecraft. They got awarded a certain amount based on the criteria they meet. The Atlas will fly, or the Boeing CST-100 Starliner will fly on an Atlas V booster. The Dragon capsule will fly on the Falcon 9 booster by SpaceX. So it's kind of for redundancy to give multiple providers the chance to compete. Yeah, it's very cool. Hendon, I don't think they are taking any more webcasters. They're all people that work for SpaceX. So, Bill, yep, you're exactly right. I'm glad that I'm now realizing that we are not. I don't need to panic. Do I trust the government? I guess I don't. Then why do they lie about everything except space travel? Roy, I generally do trust the government. They're people that work. They're my neighbors that work for the city. They're my friends that work in the state. They're people that my parents may have known that work in the government. These aren't lizard people. They're normal people. And when people think the government's some hierarchy thing that controls everyone and everything, you have to realize these are still normal people, and you have to realize the scope. There's a statistic out there about how big a conspiracy, how long does it take before someone would leak something or someone would say something in any known leak. So they look at previous leaks, like, hey, the whistleblowing on this, like NSA. How many people have to work for how long before it gets completely blown off the roof? The amount of people involved in A, space travel, and B, the government, it's like it would have been blown, whatever crazy conspiracy you have, it would have to go so insanely deep, and you have to make so many excuses to provide for that conspiracy theory that just simply is 100% impossible. Yes, there are some small conspiracies. That happens all the time. I mean, I could be conspiring to be sponsored by Nestle Splash right now because I'm drinking on camera. I don't know. But that does not mean that the entire government is we're lying to you and we are trying to control the world by telling you it's round, which somehow will give us control over everything. What? No. Yeah. Do I believe in any conspiracy? Yeah, of course. I mean, there's conspiracies that have turned out to be true, but you gotta take each one with a grain of salt and use Occam's razor to deduce what is like actually valid, what is, what's realistic, what's not just ridiculous. So, yes, Musk is absolutely 100% a lizard. So that's right. Why are we talking about stupid conspiracies? Because someone, but Roy, I mean, sorry. Yeah, let's not even talk conspiracies because it's not even worth the time. There we go. Another spacecraft deployed, another Iridium satellite. Beautiful. And John, I agree with you. Fusion reactor on rocket, absolutely. Actually, Orion, it's funny, your name is fusion. Your name is Orion because there was an Orion program in the 1960s and 70s that looked at nuclear propulsion to power spacecraft. And actually, all you do is you take your fuel and you heat it up using a reactor core, and that excites the gas enough to exit at escape velocity or at really high velocities. You end up getting really twice as efficient performance, and you don't have to carry an oxidizer. So, yeah. Thank you very much, Phil Dip. The engine's firing. No, the engine is not. By the way, there's a little bit of ice buildup at the ends of those nozzles. The engine's done doing its thing. They probably will do a deorbit burn, I believe, once it's done deploying all the spacecraft. I did not see the engine fire. Let's see. Got to love the Nerva engine, exactly. What podcast do I listen to? Space related or not? Gavin, big fan of, a really big fan of the Orbital Mechanics podcast. I'm a really big fan of Are We There Yet? Space podcast. I'm a really big fan of Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, which is they do a really good job of not only talking about conspiracy theories and how to kind of process those using the scientific method, but they also do a good job of reporting on journalism and reporting on bad journalism. Oh, what you're seeing there is little puffs of RCS thrust, so it's actually continuing to orient itself. Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, awesome podcast. What are we looking at? That camera view is looking down, kind of like this. I hope this ends up looking okay. You're looking at the bell of an engine, like that. And see, that's the engine. It's just right up next to it. Or here, for those of you guys, it'd be kind of like this. That you're just looking at that engine. Here, see? Like that. Ta-da! That's what we're looking at. Beautiful, huh? I need to get on SGU. If anybody knows anybody from SGU, tell them you want to hear from me on SGU. I would love to hang out with those people. Big fan of them. Email them. If you're an SGU fan, email them. Say, hey, the Everyday Astronaut does a good job of speaking about scientific evidence. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, NASA Brazil. No habla Portuguese. I don't know how to even say that in Portuguese. I know how to say it in Spanish. What do these satellites do? So the Iridium constellation is that ground-based communications? I don't actually remember what Iridium does, guys. Does anybody know? Thank you, Bill. This is the Lego Saturn V that I have to complete still someday when I have time. When will the second stage land on Earth? The second stage will not land on Earth. It will deorbit and burn up and blow up in the atmosphere. So, if you want to learn more about that, my most recent video on YouTube here, for those of you on Instagram, I'm talking to YouTube as well. My most recent video on YouTube is about why they can't recover the second stage. Satellite mobile communications. There we go. What is the Orion method? Not sure. I talked about the NERVA program, or the Orion program was using a fusion reactor. That's what it was. Look it up, the NASA Orion program. There's the current Orion program, which is, that's different. The current Orion program is their next generation spacecraft. It's kind of like an Apollo spacecraft that's bigger. It can carry 7 people on board at a time. It's also deep space rated, so it'll be able to take people to Mars with better navigation and things like that. SpaceX is going to replace the Merlin engines on the Falcon 9 with the Raptor engines in the future. Or are they only planning to use it? So here's the thing. As soon as you start replacing things like going from RP1 engines, like the Merlin engine, to a methane-based fuel, you have to entirely change the entire fuselage. You have to add about 40%, and at that point, you're basically building a new rocket. It is an entirely new system. So they will never have the Raptor engines, 9 Raptor engines on a Falcon 9. It will then be a new vehicle. Let's see. Mr. Astronaut Guy, when are you going to stream next and on what platform? Great questions, the cough. Whenever I can, honestly. I'll try to do more of these. I'm having fun with these SpaceX streams, so I'll be doing as many of these as I can. Let's see. I hope you'll be able to spot the Falcon from my window in a minute. That is so cool. I wish I lived on the West Coast sometimes. They are available on podcast app. You should check out the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe webcast. I'm a paid member. It's that good. Absolutely, Zephin. Absolutely. When will I finish? I will live stream this eventually, the finishing build of this. I just don't know when. I have to leave for San Francisco in the morning. I just don't have time right now. But yeah, I will someday. Let's see here. I'm trying to keep up with all these comments. I'm sorry, guys. Have you missed the deploy of the satellites? Yes, they are slowly deploying a bunch of satellites. I didn't even catch. I should have listened. I should have read the mission briefing. I'm guessing there's something like 12 satellites or something. Does anybody know? Yeah. Ethan asks if I would consider getting a pilot's license. I have 30 hours towards my pilot's license, but I have not had time or money. They always say you need 3 things to get a pilot license. That's time, money, and the desire. And you'll never have all 3 of those things at the same time. I'm definitely the exact example that I really wanted. For a little while, I had enough time to do 30 hours, and the money and the desire. Later on, I ran out of time. Later on, I ran out of money, and at some point, I've ran out of the desire for now. And hopefully someday I have time to do that. I would love to. So we have confirmation of that satellite deploying. Okay. 10 satellites deployed 100 seconds apart. Thank you, Toby. And also, hi, Toby. I feel like I haven't heard from you in a long time. Probably because I haven't been online very much. Sorry. What are we looking at on the screen? So when we look, this is the engine. We're looking down. And then the other one is looking almost up from a rocket like this, sitting at the top, looking out like this. And then you're looking at as they deploy a bunch of different satellites from there. So, okay, what do I think? What will the first Falcon Heavy payload be? Hopefully some cheese like they put on the first one. I'm rooting for them to put like a Tesla Model X or S or 3 like dummy payload up there, because I think that'd be the greatest advertising ever to have that in a lunar orbit. And with some CubeSats flying around it to get shots of a Model X flying around the moon. That is some ad stuff, because they aren't going to put a customer's payload on the first Falcon Heavy flight. We know that for sure. So yeah. Any good podcasts about spaceships and rockets? Yes. Orbital mechanics. Fantastic. Are we there yet? Fantastic. We are Martians. Fantastic. The Planetary Society puts out a lot of stuff. There's lots and lots of rocket stuff. It'll help you a lot. So you need good weather to be a student pilot. That's true. An Icon A5. Ooh, that's not good. They should put Buster from Mythbusters on a Falcon Heavy. That would be great. Tesla's car spells, yes, they do spell, especially with the Model 3 logo being like a streak like this, they pretty much spell SEX. There we go. Is that the last one? Number 9. We have one more. 1 satellite left. All right. Another Dragon 2 for high-speed re-entry test. Yep. They should put Stephen Hawking on a Falcon Heavy. I don't think that's a good idea. We need him still. He's too brilliant. One of the first Falcon Heavy flight take place most likely sometime in December-ish. December, it's all currently a little bit on the hardware, but mostly on the launch pads. As soon as they get launch pad 40 repaired, they'll have a 2-month turnaround to fix up launch pad 39A to be able to handle Falcon Heavy. And then they'll probably launch Falcon Heavy soon after that. There'll be a lot of checks out and procedures since it'll be the first all-up of all 3 of those cores strapped together. So it might take a while. It might be January, but we'll see. You got skipped. If you're young like me, you can go to Air Cadets for get people for free. There you go. You don't need oxygen, Mr. Sandman. That was the 8th deployed. All right. Do I think FedEx will become the first space delivery system? This is an important question. I think no. Currently, I mean, all launch providers are currently space delivery systems. SpaceX is already way before FedEx. They're delivering stuff to space. So they are already FedEx. Would I be interested in sending up a CubeSat? I don't know. I don't know what I'd send up that'd be worthful. Great word. Meaningful. I don't want to just send up space debris for no reason. Final spacecraft deploy confirmed. Sweet. Another successful mission from SpaceX. Highly successful. I must be a Canadian. I'm not. Can people be born in space? We don't know yet. Harambe. Oh, jeez. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm like all over here on this stuff. All right. They're ending their live broadcast. My voice hurts. I also got a pack for tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and end my broadcast. My favorite Apollo mission, besides the moon missions, I love Apollo 8, 11, 13, and then I love Apollo-Soyuz. Apollo-Soyuz is awesome. That's still one of my favorite missions ever because it brought 2 countries that were enemies together in space because people. Yes. Let's see. Have a nice trip. Thank you guys. Again, if anyone is in, if anyone is in the San Francisco area next week, let me know. Go to New Space Conference. I will be speaking there. I'll be doing a panel, so come say hi. Let's see. Yeah, thank you guys again. Make sure here I'm gonna do a little bit of full screen here for you guys over here. And again, if you guys want, check out my web store, everydayastronaut.com. You can find shirts, hats, mugs. Also, a really big shout out to my Patreon supporters lately, guys. There's been an overwhelming amount of people all of a sudden supporting, which really means a lot. This is a transition for me. It's been really hard for the past 6 months. Patreon supporters have literally put food in my stomach. So thank you guys so much for everything. Tell your friends. Check out my YouTube videos. All that stuff. Really, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys. For those of you that support me in any capacity, even just tuning in and saying hi, that really, really, really means a lot. It's really encouraging. YouTube, you guys have been incredible. I've seen growth on YouTube like I had never dreamed of on other platforms. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, saying hi, being awesome, friendly, supportive. I will say hi to Amy. Amy is awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much. That'll be it for me today, guys. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people.